Good stuff. Okay, recording started. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this Pro2Pro webinar today. My name is Holly Champion. I'm the Senior Director of Communications and Programming for the PGA, Colorado PGA. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. If you have a question, you can either use the hand raise button at the bottom, or you can also drop a question in the chat. I'm going to help Brian kind of moderate some questions if he has something come up in the middle of the presentation. He's asked for this to be interactive, so if you have a question along the way, you don't have to save them to the end. And this call is being recorded. It'll be available on the members only area of the Colorado PGA website in a couple days when I get the recording back. So if you'd like to reference it or share it with anyone that you know would be interested, we can get you that link. So it is, oh, I got somebody else coming in. There we go. It's my privilege to introduce PGA professional Brian Gott. He's a 12-year PGA member and the Director of Instruction at Rolling Hills. He's also the owner and founder of Balanced Golf. Brian has been an aim-point instructor since 2014 and is an expert in all things game improvement. So Brian, go ahead and take it away.
Well, hello, everybody. Some of you I know. I see a lot of new people that I don't necessarily know yet. So welcome. Like Holly said, I mean, if you have any questions, just interrupt. I kind of picked this topic today because it's, for those of you who don't know my background, I founded Gott Golf back in 2008, which was a club fitting operation that's still out at Green Valley Ranch. Sold it 3 years ago, decided to go back to teaching. I started to teach when I first got in the industry, but didn't like it so much because the biggest struggle I had is nobody was ever getting better. And it just seemed like week after week, people kept coming back. So I kind of looked in the mirror one day and decided, well, it must be me. It was very frustrating because they were spending money, wasting their money, wasting my time type of thing. So I concentrated a little bit more on the fitting side of the business. And kind of towards the tail end of that, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I met Mike Malaska and kind of learned a little bit more about the golf swing and how to teach. And I had always been a short game guy. And I kind of bullied Mark Sweeney into, who's the creator of Aim Point, kind of bullied him into making me an Aim Point instructor about 11 years ago. So I've always been really fascinated with the whole short game. I used to have a really good fitting studio out at Gott Golf, where I used to do a lot of fitting and putters. And today I just kind of wanted to share some things I think that have helped me be more successful back into the teaching realm of this. So maybe it helps some of you out to see where you might be a little bit better with your students. So I went up to the club at Rolling Hills after I sold the business, became their director of instruction, and then I still do stuff outside of Rolling Hills with people that I had that are just not members. So I guess we'll get going here. If anybody's got any questions, like I say, just kind of jump in. But I want to cover a little bit more about, putting and short game. Putting represents over 40% of the game, and nobody ever wants to concentrate on it because they think the driver is just a little more sexy. But unfortunately, there's no place on the card to record driver distance. So
Brian, I'm going to interrupt you before you get going. Okay. We can't see your presentation yet.
I am sharing the screen. You see my screen now?
There we go. It's loading. I can see your email. You just need to you just need to share the tab with the presentation.
Are we good?
Oh, nope, I can still just see your email. There we go.
Sorry, guys. Technology is not my thing.
Perfect.
So anyway, when we talk about putting, one of the biggest things is everybody's like, oh yeah, we got to make everything, right? So, oops. What did I just do? Can you still see my presentation? Hello, Holly?
Yes, just click slideshow up in the top.
Oh, here? Oh, I seem to have lost it.
You just have to go back to the tab that's open with your presentation,
Oh,
and
there we
then you should be able to click slideshow.
There. Okay, yeah, I was just trying to advance.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So
Perfect.
anyway, kind of one of the things is kind of the theme is make everything. Yeah, right. Anybody ever felt this before? Sure, we've all been here, right?
Oops. Oops.
This is a good example of my daughter's high school team, the way they putt. So kind of where I start off with everybody is I want to get an evaluation of where their game is. So not necessarily an evaluation of what their putting stroke is like. I like to find out how they handle themselves on the green. You know, I'll put a ball 10 or 12 feet away from the hole and ask them, you know, how far is this? Can they actually tell how far they are away from the hole? What is the green doing? Is it breaking left to right, right to left? Yeah, the fundamentals and the mechanics are important, but if they don't understand what the green is doing, it's pretty hard to make putts. I kind of have a pecking order of what I think is important. It kind of goes read, speed, line, and aim. And then after that's the actual execution of the putt. And if you can't read it and you can't control speed, really the other parts of it don't matter. You know, this is the shortest swing we've got. And the two biggest influences are speed and read. And a lot of people seem to get frustrated. I mean, I'm sure, you know, a lot of you compete and play also. And when we have bad days on the green, sometimes we think it's the putter, sometimes we think it's the execution, and sometimes it might just been bad reads. So it kind of goes back to, you know, if somebody can't read a putt, you've got to be able to teach them how to read a green. And then the next most important thing is speed, because even if your read is good and your speed's off, you've got no chance of making it. And once we can get those two skills and fundamentals down pretty good, you know, then we have to actually pick a line that we're going to aim it to, and we actually aim our putter there, and then we have to execute. You know, kind of goes down to, hey, now we get the pace right. We pick a line, we can hit it. Our aim is dead on. You know, we feel like we executed a good putt. And then, you know, what happens? Well, your read's no good. So I think one of the lost arts is I don't know how many people actually can teach people how to read a green. There's so many influences on a green with slope and the way that they kind of, you know, the way the designers put the greens together, where you got higher mounds, there's optical illusions. I don't know if any of you have ever played up at the club at Rolling Hills, but man, we've got some of the toughest greens in the state. And they can really trick you because the golf course is built on the side of a mountain, so you can't really see where the slope is. So, you know, green reading is really, really important, sometimes even better than fundamentals. So kind of what we want to do is, you know, there's a lot of things that are influences. You know, you got mower patterns, grass, you got spike marks, shadows can trick your eyes, stuff in the background, you know, drainage areas. You know, do you leave the pin in? Do you leave the pin out? What are you focusing on? So there's a lot of influences that, you know, really start to affect people when they putt. So when I became aim point certified, it was something I had gone through aim point classes when the original aim point happened back in the mid 2000s. And aim point was something that's it's 100% accurate. The original aim point. What they do is they laser map a green, and based off speed, slope, and distance, they can tell exactly what the putt's going to do. The only problem with the original aim point, I'm sure everybody remembers, it was very difficult. It was cumbersome. You had charts. You were walking around the hole trying to figure out where your 0 point was, and then you had to flip to your chart. So it was a nightmare. It took forever. So one thing Mark Sweeney and his crew decided to do was, well, they wanted to develop something that was much easier so they could teach it to kids. And that's how Express was born. And Express is about 11 or 12 years old, or 12 years old now. And that's where the fingers come in. And using the fingers kind of gives you sort of a launch angle. And it's something we can, you know, I can dig into a lot deeper with a lot of you, you know, later down the road. but it is a scientific-based system. Aimpoint now accounts for over 50% of the wins on tour worldwide. And there's about 75% of tour players that use some sort of aimpoint technique. A lot of caddies have it. I think there's 4 or 5 of the top 10 players in the world now use it. So it's really, really growing in popularity. It does get kind of a bad rap on TV, you know, being pace of play, because you've got players that are slow to begin with. And then they go through this process and it just, you know, everything they do is slow. So everybody just thinks aimpoint takes longer. And a lot of it is, a lot of people haven't been trained correctly. So I kind of put together this video that explains a little bit of it just really quick.
Do you feel like you're struggling with your reads and you're 3-putting way too much? Have you ever been to a course and it looks like a putt's breaking one way and it actually goes the other? Well, the problem is your eyes tend to fool you. If you look at these 2 cards I'm demonstrating, one looks bigger than the other. And then when I flip them to the other side, now you can see the other one looks bigger. Well, what causes that? Well, it has to do with parallax error with your eyes, so you can't see a curve correctly. What's really good about Aimpoint is we teach you to read the greens with your feet. We're feeling slope on the green. That's what causes the ball to break. When you go through an Aimpoint clinic, we teach you how to feel slope, we teach you where to read the putts, and then how to apply what you read so that you can get the ball closer to the hole, you can stop 3-putting, and you'll actually make more putts.
Let's see, move past this slide. Is anybody here familiar with Aimpoint? Has anybody been through an Aimpoint clinic?
Do you feel like you're struggling with?
Oh, sorry. Everybody still with me?
Yeah, Brian, it's Ty Walker. I've been with it. Thanks, Brian. I did it with Mark Sweeney and the proponent group a few years ago down in Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, good. So, now I want to cover a little bit about the myths with Aimpoint, right? Because everybody says it's too complicated. Takes too long on the course. You know, only professionals use it. It's just about feeling the slope, and then you got to use a whole bunch of math. And it's a lot of this stuff couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, it's something that we teach the kids. I teach it to a lot of juniors that are coming up in the game because they just haven't been taught. You know, I'll use my daughter as an example. She's a sophomore in high school. I don't think she knows how to read a green with her eyes, because I taught her Aimpoint several years ago. She might even be better at it than I am. And it's a pretty easy system. You know, like I said, we feel the slope. We learn how to read different length putts from different areas. We determine what the Aimpoint is. That's kind of what the fingers are all about. And then we execute the putt. And, you know, I tell a lot of students when we teach it is, you know, when make percentages really start to go down as we get further away from the hole. And I usually will quote a lot of tour stats, you know, as far as proximity to the hole and, you know, the percentage of it going down. So when you've got tour players that outside 20 feet are making it 15, 16%, and a lot of these amateurs are missing putts from 25 and 30 feet, and they're getting really frustrated. They're just not being realistic with themselves. So the biggest thing that I teach a lot of my students is if we can eliminate the 3 putts, because that's what seems to add a lot of strokes to the card. So I've been I'm a level 2 instructor for Aimpoint, and I do go outside of my facility and teach this. So any of you that might be interested in hosting an Aimpoint clinic at your course, please contact me. All my contact information will be at the end. And I can go into a little bit more depth. It's something that you can learn yourself. You're not actually allowed to teach it unless you're a certified instructor, but you will learn it and be able to work with them also. Plus, I mean, anything we can all learn to make us better, you know, helps us also. So this was kind of another video I did.
You're always looking for new and innovative ways to help your students, whether it be a book, the internet, or even hosting a guest. Hosting an Aimpoint clinic for your students will give them the opportunity to learn a putting system to help make them better. Hi, I'm Brian Gott. I'm a PGA professional, and I'm a certified level 2 aim point coach. Aim point is a game changer. It's a revolutionary way to read greens and make putts. Your students will see real improvement, bringing consistent business to your club. We will work together to make aim point a seamless part of your program. You will be right in the mix, learning aim point method alongside your students, which will enhance your teaching and position you as an innovative, forward-thinking instructor. After the clinic, your students will be continuing to work with you to master these techniques, cementing your role in their development. So what's next? Get in touch with me. I'll help guide you through to get a successful aim point clinic set up at your facility. This is your chance to elevate your students' games, make a little revenue, and the chance to elevate your professional brand. Reach out to me directly. Let's make this happen. I really look forward to working with you.
So I saw Don Graham's on here. Don hosted a couple of these at his place last year, which I think were really successful, and I can let him kind of chime in a little bit about that.
I was just getting ready to chime in, Brian. We worked out great. I went through the program. I went from being a total skeptic to a complete believer. First time I got to use it was in the mountains playing at Beaver Creek, and I read the greens much better than I usually do because of all the confusion was taken away. I think the key part is people don't remember that it's Aim Point Express, and it's a quick process. It works really well, but I can't recommend it enough, except when they got to the part where they were using their fingers to decide how much it broke. Brian kept using only one finger, and it was a different finger when he was coaching me. So I'm not sure what that was all about.
So something that's helped me out too with a lot of my students is I have kind of transitioned my teaching into more on-course group coaching. Usually I won't work with a student until I can do an evaluation. So I like to take them out on the course. Yeah, I know a lot of us use surveys and stuff, but I don't think people are truly honest with us about where their game is. So I take them out on the course for 9 holes, and I just strictly observe. I take them out in a group of 4, and I observe. And what's nice is when we get done, then we can go through their game, and I can kind of highlight that stuff. And I can't tell you how many times in 9 holes we get 4 and 5 3 putts for a lot of these folks. Even the better players. My sweet spot's been that, 8, 10, up to like a 25 handicap. And just teaching a more short game inside 100 yards. I've got ladies that were shooting in the 120s that are just getting ready to break 100. And I haven't touched their golf swing very much. It hasn't been a lot of golf swing mechanics. It's been more short game. It's chipping techniques. Everybody, one of my students learns Aim Point. Whether they use it to the full extent, doesn't really matter, but it just gives them a better idea of how to read the game. So, anybody have any questions at all? Try to keep it relatively short.
Well, again, I would just chime in. If anybody has any questions about how our experience at Raccoon Creek worked, please feel to reach out for me. I can't vouch for Brian enough. The program went great. The course made some money. While we were up there doing the clinics, people were asking what was going on and created demand for another. So terrific program. Loved it, Brian. Thanks.
Yeah, and anybody that's interested, I'll probably my goal is to do about 10 of them outside of Rolling Hills this year. So if anybody's interested in hosting one, get in touch with me. We can talk about it. There is a revenue share where you can make some money on this too. And any of your staff is welcome to join in and learn it so that you can continue to work with your students to make sure that they're getting it correctly. I think some people, once they learn it, maybe a couple of weeks later, they forget a few things. It's not working, and they say, "Oh my God, this Aim Point doesn't work." But it really does help, and there's a lot of documented success with it.
I think Ben has a question.
Hi, Brian. Long time no see.
How are you?
I'm good. A little snowy up here, but I had a question. Kind of, you said it earlier that you sort of talked them into certifying you. What is kind of that Aim Point community like? What does it take to be Aim Point certified? What's different between coming to a clinic with you versus being a certified instructor?
So Mark Sweeney, who's the one that developed it, he does he's pretty good about protecting his brand. He doesn't want anybody teaching it that's not certified. We attend conferences every year, which I'll be at next week in Tucson, because there's constantly updates. So to become a certified instructor, you need to reach out to Mark Sweeney himself. He doesn't want a whole, huge array of instructors. I think he kind of wants to keep a rein on it. In Colorado, it's Stan Sayers and myself are the only two that I'm aware of right now. I know Scotty Hofer was also, but he retired. So you got to reach out to him directly to become a certified instructor. But I would recommend to anybody, I know Mark is really, really protective of it. And some people have tried to teach it using a name that are not certified instructors, and he's gone after them. And a lot of it is they tried to sell videos. There's a ton of stuff on the internet, but you really need hands-on with this to really understand it. I mean, the clinic takes about 2 hours. I personally only do it in groups of 6. A lot of my colleagues do it in groups of 10. I just don't feel like everybody gets enough out of it in groups of 10. So 6 seems to be my sweet spot, because then I get my hands on everybody. We go through a brief little description about what it is, and usually within about 10 minutes, we're rolling ball. So it's hands-on. So they actually get to see it. It comes with notes. They have access to me whenever. I don't ever leave anybody in the lurch. If somebody's struggling with something, sometimes I'll do follow-ups. But in answer to your question, man, if you want to become certified, you just need to reach out to Mark.
Yeah, I was just curious. In your clinics, a little follow-on, is it in your 2 hours? Is it fairly solely focused on aim point and green reading, or are you given?
Yes. Well, it's hard.
Fixes?
Yeah, it's hard as an instructor, because if I see somebody doing something really goofy with a putter, I'm going to help them out a little bit. But yes, it's solely a green reading system.
Cool.
But I am going to be doing a mountain tour. I don't know if Chad's made it on yet. I know he texted me this morning. But I am going to try to do a little bit of a mountain tour this winter. If you're interested, I can, try to hit about 4 or 5 courses when I go up there.
Yeah, keep me on your list.
Those of you who know Craig Farnsworth, Craig's been with Mark Sweeney since the beginning. Craig used to do a bunch of them in Colorado, but he's pretty much retired himself to where the sun only shines 365 days a year, which I'm jealous. So Craig doesn't get to Colorado much anymore. So that's why I'm trying to get out and spread it around a little bit. So like I said, if anybody's interested, reach out to me. I can go more through the program, show you how the revenue share works. And that's about it. Like I said, email's got any more questions? Doesn't have to be specific to aim point. It could be short game stuff.
Brian, I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
You talked about it when you kind of introduced yourself and your background, but you now have started 2 small businesses related to golf instruction. I know your first one was very heavy in like custom club fitting and building. Do you have any advice or any kernels of knowledge for someone who may be looking to start their own instructional business or instructional programming?
It's a lot of, I got very lucky. I built a very big base with Gott Golf. I did that for 16 years. And I did mix in a little bit of instruction. And when I started Gott Golf was just a hobby out of my basement. I came from a whole different industry. I worked in liquor distribution for 13 years out of college. I was probably a 10, 12 handicap when I got in the golf industry. But I was always a golf junkie. I had a lot of friends that were PGA professionals, and I decided to get in the program, went through it. I do like to compete now. I think once I met Mike Malaska, I learned a lot more about teaching golf and the golf swing, and how to make it more simple as opposed to just the cookie cutter stuff you see all the time. I learned a lot from Mike, and a lot of his experiences have been from teaching for 35 plus years. But in answer to Holly's question, it takes some time. You just got to be patient. Unless you walk into an established place. I've been at Rolling Hills. I'm going in my 4th 4th season there now, and the first 2 seasons was a little tough to get people engaged. And I think I kind of went against the grain a little bit because I don't stand on the lesson tee hitting balls on the range. I don't teach golf swing. I do teach golf swing, but I'm teaching more the game of golf during season because I'm taking them out on the course. And I think we all know the driving range guy is a whole lot different than the golf course guy. And I've been kind of a true student of the game. I mean, those of you that know me, I've gotten involved in every technology that's come across from the game. I just started getting a little bit more involved with MGT, which is mental golf type. So I'm learning a little bit more about how people's brains process and how they handle stress. Because I think that's the one thing that hurts golfers the most is, I mean, even with us that still compete and play, I mean, sit on the driving range and stripe every ball. What happens when you get on the first tee? Well, driving range has a whole bucket of balls there with no consequences for any of them, right? Perfect lies, same club over and over and over again. Now we get to the first tee, we got, you know, some sort of obstacle on the left, lake on the right, and then all of a sudden the brain locks up and that golf swing goes away. So I've tried to, my passion for teaching the game now is I want to get people on the course and teach them a little bit more how to play. And it's not all about perfect shots. And I think a lot of it, where I've helped a lot of my students, is we concentrate so much on short game. Like I think Op 36 was a great thing to come to the game. And I kind of do a modified version of that with my students because we spend so much time. If they can't get up and down, and, you know, get rid of the 3 putts, I don't care how far you hit the ball in the fairway. I mean, you're not going to hit that many greens as a mid to high handicap. You're going to be doing a lot of short game. You're going to be chipping a lot. You're going to be putting a lot. And, you know, it's the marketing with equipment and everything has been so distance driven. And everybody gets so focused. I mean, I can't tell you how many people come to me for a driver lesson, and all we end up doing is hitting wedges. Because if they can't execute the shot on a 30 or 40-yard shot, well, then they can't expect to execute it swinging full speed. So that's some of the stuff that's been really successful with me. And being in the groups, I think, has helped a lot on the course because they think they learn better in the group. I give them dedicated practice stuff. I do supervised practice sessions with all of my students where they come and we work on skills. You know, and then next time we're on the course, we can apply those skills. And I think that's what's really helped a lot of my students get better.
Ryan, I think Mr. Kavanaugh has a specific question, and I got a second one for you in the chat.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for your time today. We just created an academy up here for the C11 golf courses for our first year, and it went pretty well. But we did a lot of beginner, intermediate. Kind of a question: how you cater towards that more, you know, single-digit handicapper? We use Ops 36 as well. Really love it. We kind of created an elite Ops 36 for this year for the first year. Haven't done it yet. Any recommendations on how to attack those kind of intermediate to advanced golfers in a programming setting, or what you do?
You mean with the Op 36 or in short game?
Just in general, just some type of, yeah. I mean, Ops 36, I heard you just did the supervised practices, just kind of how you handle those better players versus kind of that intermediate to you know, beginner.
So kind of want, now I'm in a private club, so I've got a lot of access to the course, but I do a modified part of Op 36, especially with the better players, as we get competitions going. So I'll go out and set the course up, you know, 25, 50, 75, 100-yard markers. And depending on the level of player, they have to get down in a certain number. So if I've got higher handicaps, they got to get down in 4, and then they get to move back a distance, but they can't 3-putt. And then they continue to work their way back, but if they don't get down in 4 or they 3-putt, they have to move up. So we try to get through the whole 9 holes, and they try to earn their way back. Is, you know, Op 36 is you play the whole round from the same distance. And I'll go throw these distances in the rough and the bunkers behind trees. I mean, especially the better players, they got to get out of those situations. And with the better players, they got to get down in 3. So that's been really helpful with some of my better players. It actually works for all of them. Plus, they get to have fun. I think sometimes golf instruction gets too rigid. And when they have these little competitions on the course, I think it really helps these these people out, to get better because they're competing against each other. They're competing against themselves. So I'm creating some pressure and I'm creating some, real golf scenarios, and they really seem to enjoy it. It becomes a little more social. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Brian, another one that came in the chat, from Ryan. Can you discuss specific aim point techniques, or is this not allowed?
Well, yeah, I can a little bit. So so the way it works is you see them walking a line. So every distance putt we read from different spots. The biggest thing about aim point is you have to train your feet. You have to know what percentage of slope that we're feeling. So that's how the clinic starts. Is I'll map out 1 through 4% of slope. Everybody needs to get a digital level because that's when you train. You have to train your feet. Once your feet get trained, the rest of the system's pretty idiot-proof. Different putts get read from different distances. And it's basically once you figure out what the slope is, that's where the fingers are. But the up close putts we read a little bit different. Once we get outside 6 feet, the system stays pretty much the same, and then we incorporate double breakers. I mean, it's hard to get specific over the internet. It's one of those things that's more hands-on. I know they've tried to release videos, and people don't quite get it. And then there's stuff on the internet. It's not correct. When people go through the Aim Point Clinic, there is a Facebook group for those who like to socialize with social media. We as instructors kind of monitor the site to make sure that people aren't on there feeding bad information. But a lot of us as instructors, we don't leave any of these students in the lurch. So if we host an Aim Point Clinic, you guys are welcome to come see me if you want to learn it. But once you learn it, I don't leave people in the lurch because they'll forget stuff, and they get notes afterwards that everything we cover in a 2-hour clinic. And then for better players, there's more advanced versions of it. But people, for the most part, just need to know, hey, is it going left to right or right to left? I think you saw in that video, I put those 2 cards up that show a curve. And that's the first eye test I do with everybody is, think about it. How many times have any of you played? You go play with the Broadmoor, you come play Rolling Hills, a lot of these courses up against the mountain. What ball looks like it's going one way and what happens? It goes the other. So your feet won't lie to you. And a lot of people say, well, I can't feel. Well, we teach you how to do that because there's different ways to feel it. People can feel it directly in their feet, just above the knees. You can use your hip joints. It's once you identify it, it becomes pretty easy.
So Brian, you're saying that not everything at the Broadmoor breaks up towards the chapel?
Well, I don't know if anybody have you ever seen the Broadmoor from about 15 miles away, but the whole golf course sits on the mountain like this. Same thing with Blue Course at Eisenhower and Rolling Hills, same way.
Yep, for sure. I think Ben has another question.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I don't mean this to be a smart aleck question, but as the aim point expert in the room, what's kind of your answer or, a lot of the stuff about slow play on the tour right now, slow play in general, and it does seem like aim point is a bit of a target right now because we watch them doing it. But what, how in your coaching, how in theory, I guess this makes people move faster, right? If they can read a green better, they make more putts. But how as the aim point community would you answer that question as to if it contributes to slow play or not?
I get it a lot, and aim point it's actually faster. And I do that in the clinic. I actually address that. And I go through and show them it's about a 45-second read, and then you're pulling the trigger. Here's the problem. Not to pick on any particular tour player, but Keegan Bradley is a perfect example, right? He is slow at everything he does. So if a player's slow, this isn't going to probably change their pace of play. But if you're doing aim point correct, you're going to get a read faster. You're not walking around the hole. You're not squatting down from different angles. And what I show a lot of people is if you're getting the ball closer to the hole on your first putt and you got that left for your second putt, you go up, tap it in, guess what? You're done. You're not marking the ball and starting that whole process all over again. So it is faster when executed properly. I fight it a lot because you get people to get nervous at our club, right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? So it takes a little bit of time. And I think it's kind of in your practice routine. If you get good with your feet, it happens like that. So, but yeah, I mean, everything on TV, right? Somebody doesn't like what they see, you know, and they're going to trash it. It's getting better. I mean, it was really, really bad in the beginning, but you're getting a lot more guys that are coming around. When you've got, you know, guys like Victor Hovland, you know, Rory's tried it on and off. Scotty Scheffler's caddy does it. You know, Dustin Johnson doesn't read his own putts. His brother reads them all. You know, it turned Adam Scott's putting around back when he couldn't make anything. So I mean, there's a lot of good players, and if you watch them, they really aren't taking that much time.
Mr. Graham?
Well, I'll attest that during the sessions, Brian spent some time talking about how you can do it more quickly. You can be reading your putt before it's your turn. You know, it's kind of the things you see in slow players that they do already. You know, they don't even start reading their putt until it's their turn. So as long as you're not walking through anyone's line, you can kind of get started on that. And then by the time it's your turn to go, you're pretty close to ready. So if you do it right, like anything else in golf, it doesn't make you a slow player, I don't think.
I think in the beginning, a lot of people get, you know, they're not sure if they're doing it right. And that's one of the things I teach in the clinic is just go with first instinct, right? You read it, it's going to be right or wrong. I mean, how many times have you misread a putt when you're using your eyes and walking in circles and go to the far side of the cup and you still get it wrong? So it's not perfect. It's, like I said, it's scientifically based. So kind of one of the things we'll show in the clinic is when the fingers go up, what it's really doing is it's creating a launch angle. Okay, so what they found out is based on the slope and the distance from the hole, the further I get away from the hole, that angle starts to get bigger, right? So it's kind of creating a launch angle, and if you hit it somewhere in that direction, it's going to get close if you get the speed right. Now, kind of goes back to what I discussed earlier. You know, speed is really, really important. I don't care how good your read is. If you're blowing at 8 feet by, read doesn't matter. You know, if you're leaving them 2 feet short, same thing. So read and speed are two of the most important things. And that's kind of the one thing, you know, the rest of you, when you teach it, I would recommend that when you watch your student putt, ask them those questions about the green first. Don't just look at the way they stroke the ball. Yeah, mechanics are important, but a lot of people can't tell distance. Like I say, I usually just drop a ball 15 feet away and say, how far is that? If they tell me it's 25 feet, well, we got a problem. You know, or they say it's going left to right or right to left. And it's, you know, and then, you know, when we get further down the road, can they actually line their putter up at their target? And then, yeah, the mechanics about how they grip it and how they stroke it and speed. I mean, you can get really deep into it. I mean, I did a lot of high-level putter fittings, you know, back in the day. And there's a lot of stuff that we look at. But when it comes down to it, can they get the ball going on the line they intended to go, and can they get the speed close to right? Well, they'll be decent putters. And a lot of the drills that I give my students to practice, we practice 3-footers to death. You know, it's not fun. But if we practice 3-footers and then when we're 30, 40 feet away from the hole, the goal is not to make that. The goal is to get it inside that 3-foot circle. Because if we're really good at 3-footers, we start eliminating 3-putts. 3-putts, the biggest killer on a scorecard. I mean, even those of us that compete. I mean, how many times do you 3-putt and just kill the score?
Any other questions for Brian?
I had a 4-putt last year, Brian.
You were kind of like that girl I had on in the beginning.
Yeah, I'll admit it.
We've all been there. It cracks me up because it's like my daughter's a sophomore in high school right now, and it amazes me how bad they're putting in. I mean, they have a 3-footer and then they have a 20-footer next. And it cracks me up, and I struggle with the coach, and it's hard as a parent now, a golf coach and a parent, is they spend so much time just hitting balls on the range. And I'm like, when are you going to start working on short game? Because these kids' short game are horrible. I mean, I see these kids just piss away so many strokes around the greens, which kind of led me to the way I teach my students now too is let's clean up the stuff around the green. I mean, to me, the biggest things about scoring decent is number one, keep the ball in play, develop a good short game, and stop three putting. And scores are going to come down. But I get it; it's sexy. You got to get that. Got to hit the driver further, even though there is no documented evidence that hitting it farther scores lower. So if any of you have any questions, like I say, if you're interested in hosting an aim-point clinic at your place, reach out to me. I'll be probably sending out a bunch of stuff to the section, kind of get a schedule set, because I'm only going to do about 10 of them outside of our facility.
Good stuff. Well, again, if anybody has any questions, Brian's email was in this presentation. I'm also happy to connect you after the fact if you come up with any more questions or would like to contact him on booking or anything else instruction and golf related. Brian, you're probably one of our more active players in the section, so I bet if any of you play, you'll probably run into Brian at some of our section events as well. So thank you everyone for your time this morning. If you did log in, I have taken attendance, so you will receive 1 PDR for this webinar. And again, the recording will be posted on the Colorado PGA members only section of the website. You just have to sign in to view it, but you can share it after that. So thank you everyone for your time. Thank you, Brian, for your expertise. And have a
Thanks
wonderful rest
everybody.
of your
Like I
day.
say, if you any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Holly.
Brian.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
My pleasure. Holly, you still there?
Yep.
I go, okay. That's one of my first ones. So
That was great. I thought your presentation was good. I like that you left plenty of time for questions. Yeah, I thought that was really good.
yeah, there's a lot of people I didn't even know. It's good to see some new faces.
Yeah, I'll share the list with you.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna hold on.
Mike is still there.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording too.